20,000 lives hanging in the balance at 30,000 feet. No pilot in control, engines screaming through turbulence. And the only person who could save them all was a 17-year-old girl who had never flown a plane in her life. This is the story of how Jessica Matthews went from being a scared passenger to becoming the youngest person in history to land a commercial airliner in an emergency. It is a story that will make you question everything you think you know about courage, capability, and the power of human determination when death is just one wrong move away. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Flight 227 was supposed to be routine. Jessica Matthews sat in seat 1 for C, headphones on, watching the clouds drift past her window as the Boeing 737 cruised at 35,000 feet. She was flying home to Seattle after visiting her grandfather in Denver. Her parents would be waiting at the airport. She had homework to finish. Tomorrow was just another Monday. Everything was normal. Everything was safe. She closed her eyes, letting the gentle hum of the engines lull her into that half-asleep state that comes so easily on long flights. But then something changed. A strange sound cut through the white noise. It was not loud, but it was wrong. A mechanical grinding that made her stomach tighten. She opened her eyes. Other passengers were looking around too, their faces showing the same confusion she felt. The plane shuddered. Not the normal turbulence bump, but a violent shake that rattled the overhead compartments. Someone gasped. A baby started crying. Then the seatbelt sign pinged on, and the flight attendants rushed down the aisle faster than Jessica had ever seen anyone move on a plane. Their professional smiles were gone. One of them stumbled as the aircraft tilted sharply to the left. Jessica gripped her armrests. Her heart was hammering now. The man next to her was praying quietly, his knuckles white against the seat. Through the cockpit door, which Jessica could just barely see from her position, she heard shouting. Not the calm, controlled voices of pilots managing a situation. This was panic. Raw, genuine terror in their voices. The plane dropped suddenly. Not a gentle descent, but a stomach-lurching fall that left her weightless for 3 full seconds. Oxygen masks dropped from above, dangling like yellow jellyfish. All around her, people were screaming now. The cabin filled with the sound of 200 terrified voices. Jessica pulled her mask on with shaking hands, her mind racing through every plane crash documentary she had ever accidentally watched and immediately regretted. What was happening? Where were the pilots? Why was no one telling them anything? Then came the announcement that would change everything. The head flight attendant's voice crackled over the intercom, and Jessica would never forget the barely controlled fear in those words. "This is Sarah Chen speaking. I need everyone to remain calm. Our captain has suffered a medical emergency. Our first officer has also become incapacitated. We are looking for anyone with flight experience. If anyone on this aircraft has any pilot training whatsoever, please press your call button immediately." Silence. Dead, horrible silence broken only by crying and whispered prayers. Jessica looked around the cabin. No call buttons lit up. No one moved. The plane was still descending, the engines making sounds that no engines should ever make. Sarah's voice came back, higher now, more desperate. "Please, anyone, even simulator experience, even video game flight training. We need help now." Still nothing. How long did they have? How many minutes before this aluminum tube full of people became a fireball? Jessica's mind was not working right. Everything felt surreal, like watching herself in a movie. But through the fear, through the absolute certainty that she was about to die, a memory surfaced. Her Uncle Tom, 2 summers ago. He was a flight instructor, and during her visit, he had taken her up in his Cessna 6 times. She had actually held the controls. He had taught her the basics. How to read the instruments, how to use the rudder pedals, how to maintain altitude. He had even let her practice landings, guiding her through each step with his hands, ready to take over if needed. But that was a tiny single-engine plane. This was a Boeing 737 with 247 people on board. There was no comparison. It would be insane to even consider it. She was 17 years old. She had exactly 4.5 hours of actual flight time. All of it in perfect weather in a plane that weighed less than some cars. This was impossible, but nobody else was pressing their call button. The plane kept falling. The altimeter in her mind, the one her uncle had made her memorize the look of, was spinning down in her imagination. 20,000 feet, 15,000. How long until they hit the mountains? Jessica's hand moved without her permission. She watched it rise, watched her finger press the call button above her seat, watched the little light turn on. What was she doing? This was crazy. She was going to get everyone killed. But they were going to die anyway, were they not? At least this way, there was a chance. A flight attendant appeared beside her so fast, she must have been watching the call buttons like a hawk. You have flight experience. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. I have 4.5 hours in a Cessna 172, Jessica heard herself say. Her voice sounded strange, distant. My uncle is a flight instructor. I know the basic controls and instruments. I have practiced landings. She waited for the flight attendant to laugh, to tell her to sit down, to find a real pilot. Instead, the woman grabbed her arm. Come with me now. Everything happened so fast after that. Jessica was pulled from her seat, dragged down the aisle while passengers stared at her with expressions that mixed hope and horror. She was 17. She looked 17. These people were entrusting their lives to a high school junior who had a chemistry test on Wednesday. The cockpit door opened, and Jessica's knees almost gave out. The captain was slumped over the controls, unconscious. The first officer was on the floor, also not moving. Later, they would learn it was carbon monoxide from a faulty seal. But right now, all Jessica knew was that both pilots were gone, and she was looking at an instrument panel that had about 1,000 more buttons and screens than anything she had ever seen. Sit down, Sarah said, helping her into the captain's seat after they pulled him out. 2 other crew members carried the unconscious pilots to the back. Air traffic control is on frequency 1 to 1.5. They are waiting to talk to you. They will guide you through everything. Jessica's hands were shaking so badly she could barely grasp the yoke. The plane was still descending. Now, at 12,000 feet, according to the altimeter mountains. There were mountains everywhere in Colorado. How high were they? 10,000 feet. 14,000. She did not know. Hello. She pressed the radio button her uncle had taught her about, the one that looked almost the same as in the Cessna. This is Flight 227. I am Jessica. I am not a pilot. I need help. The voice that came back was male, calm, impossibly steady. Jessica, this is Denver Approach. My name is Robert Chen. I am a controller and former Air Force pilot. I am going to get you through this. First, I need you to look at your altitude. What does it say? She found the instrument. 9,800 feet. It is decreasing. Her voice cracked. We are going down. I do not know how to stop it. Okay, Jessica. You are doing great. I need you to find the throttle. It is the two large levers between the seats. Do you see them? She did. They looked different from the one in the Cessna, bigger and more complex, but the concept was the same. Push them forward. Not too fast. Increase power. Jessica pushed. The engine noise increased. The descent slowed, then stopped. The altimeter held at 9,400 feet. She had just saved 247 people from immediate death, but they were not safe yet. Not even close. Good, Robert said. Excellent. Now we need to maintain level flight while we work on getting you to an airport. How much fuel do you have? Fuel gauge. Where was the fuel gauge? Her eyes scanned the panel frantically. There, it says 5,000 pounds. I do not know if that is good. That is about 45 minutes of flight time. We are going to get you to Denver International. It is 23 miles northeast of your position. Can you see the runway lights ahead? Jessica looked up through the windscreen. In the distance, she could see lights. Lots of lights. I see lights, but I do not know which ones are the runway. That is fine. I am going to guide you to them. Right now, I need you to turn right. There is a dial in front of you that looks like a compass. It is called a heading indicator. Do you see it? She found it. Yes. Turn the yoke gently to the right until that heading indicator reads 030. Jessica turned the yoke. The plane banked right. Too far. She overcorrected, left. The plane rocked back. Passengers behind her screamed. Her heart was going to explode. She could feel it trying to burst through her chest. Small movements, Robert said, his voice still calm. How was he so calm? Think of it like steering a boat, not a car. Gentle pressure. She tried again. Softer this time. The plane turned smoothly. The heading indicator crept toward 030. Perfect. Now level your wings. She centered the yoke. The plane steadied. Outside the window, the city of Denver spread below her like a blanket of stars. Hundreds of thousands of people down there, going about their lives, having dinner, watching television, completely unaware that a teenage girl was flying a commercial jet overhead with 247 lives in her shaking hands. Jessica, I need to teach you how to land this plane, Robert said. It is going to be challenging, but I have talked people through this before. You can do this. Do you believe me? Did she believe him? She did not know. She did not believe in anything right now except the instrument panel in front of her, and the sound of Robert's voice in her headset. I do not have a choice, she said. That is right. You do not. So we are going to do this together. First, let us talk about what is going to happen. For the next 20 minutes, Robert walked Jessica through every step of landing a Boeing 737, the approach speed, the flap settings, the landing gear, the runway alignment, how to use the rudder to keep the nose straight, how to flare just before touchdown, how to deploy the thrust reversers and brakes. Jessica repeated everything back to him, her mind absorbing information faster than it ever had in any classroom. This was not a test she could fail and retake next week. This was pass or die. Behind her, The cabin was silent. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew their lives depended on the teenager in the captain's seat. Some were praying. Some were texting goodbye messages to their families. Some just stared at the seat in front of them, too numb to do anything else. Sarah stood in the cockpit doorway, watching Jessica, ready to help with whatever was needed. "Okay," Robert said. "You are on final approach. Do you see the runway now? It has white lights on both sides." Jessica saw it. A strip of light stretching into the darkness, looking impossibly narrow, impossibly short. She was supposed to land on that. "I see it. Good. Your altitude is 3,000 feet. Your speed is 180 knots. That is too fast. Pull the throttle back to slow to 150 knots. She pulled the throttle. The engines quieted. The plane slowed. Now deploy your flaps. There is a lever on the center console with numbers on it. Move it to position 30. Jessica found it, moved it. She heard a mechanical whining as the flaps extended from the wings. The plane's nose dipped slightly. Excellent. Now, landing gear. There is a gear lever that looks like a wheel. Put it down. She found it, pulled it down. More mechanical sounds. 3 green lights appeared on the panel. 3 green lights, she reported. Perfect. Your landing gear is down and locked. You are at 1,000 feet. Line up with the center of the runway using the yoke. Small corrections. The runway was coming up fast. Too fast. Way too fast. How did pilots do this? How did they make it look easy? Jessica made tiny adjustments, keeping the nose pointed at the white center line. 500 feet. The ground was rushing up now, every detail visible. 400 feet. Her hands were cramping from gripping the yoke so hard. 300 feet. When you were 50 feet above the ground, Robert said, "I need you to pull back gently on the yoke. This is called flaring. It will lift the nose and let the rear wheels touch first." 200 feet. Buildings flashed past on either side. 100 feet. 50 feet. Now, Jessica pulled back. The nose lifted. The plane seemed to float. Then a bump. The rear wheels touched. Another bump. The nose gear came down. They were on the ground. They were on the ground and they were alive. "Thrust reversers," Robert shouted. The 2 levers next to the throttle. "Pull them up." Jessica pulled. The engines roared in reverse. The plane shuddered but kept slowing. "Now brakes. Push the top of the rudder pedals with your toes." She pushed. The plane slowed faster. They were still going 60 miles per hour, 50, 40, 30. The end of the runway was approaching. Were they going to stop? 20 miles per hour, 10, 5. The plane rolled to a stop with 300 feet of runway remaining. Jessica sat frozen, her hands still on the yoke, her feet still on the pedals. She could not move, could not breathe, could not process what had just happened. Behind her, the cabin erupted, cheering, crying, screaming with joy. People were hugging each other, hugging strangers, sobbing with relief. Emergency vehicles surrounded the plane, their lights flashing red and blue. Sarah was crying, her hand on Jessica's shoulder. "You did it," she kept saying. "You did it. You saved us all." Robert's voice came through the headset one more time. "Jessica, I need you to shut down the engines. The red buttons above your head. Can you do that?" She reached up, pressed them. The engine spooled down into silence. It was over. She had landed a Boeing 737 with 247 people on board. She was 17 years old. She had done the impossible. When they finally opened the cockpit door and let the paramedics in to check on her, Jessica's legs would not work. They had to help her out of the seat, help her walk down the aisle. Every passenger stood as she passed. They were clapping, reaching out to touch her arm, her hand, thanking her through tears. She did not feel like a hero. She felt like she might throw up. Outside the plane, the night air hit her face, cold and real. Her parents were there, having been rushed to the airport when the emergency began. Her mother grabbed her and would not let go. Her father was crying, which she had never seen before. News cameras were everywhere, their lights blinding. Someone put a blanket around her shoulders. The paramedics wanted to check her vitals. Airport officials needed statements. The FAA was there. The airline executives. Everyone wanted to talk to the girl who had done the impossible, but all Jessica could think about was how close they had come. One wrong move, one miscalculation, one moment of panic. That was all it would have taken to kill everyone on board. The weight of it crashed over her like a wave, and suddenly she was shaking again, crying, unable to stand. They took her to the hospital for observation. Shock, they said. Completely understandable given what she had been through. The captain and first officer were already there, recovering from the carbon monoxide poisoning. They would both survive. In the days that followed, Jessica's life became unrecognizable. Her face was on every news channel. The president called her. Congress wanted to give her a medal. Pilots from around the world reached out to praise her incredible feat. The airline offered her free flights for life. Her Uncle Tom cried when he heard what she had done with the skills he had taught her. But the thing that stuck with Jessica, the thing that mattered most, happened 3 days after the landing. She went back to school, trying to return to normal life, and found a letter in her locker. It was from a woman who had been on flight 227, sitting in row 23 with her 2 children. The letter was simple. It just said thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for trying when it seemed impossible. Thank you for giving my children the chance to grow up. Thank you for giving me the chance to see them graduate, get married, have children of their own. Thank you for every tomorrow that I will have because of your courage today. Jessica kept that letter. When people asked her how she found the strength to do what she did, she would think about those children in row 23, about the 247 individual lives on that plane, parents and children and grandparents and friends, people with dreams and plans and people who loved them. She did not save a plane. She saved 247 worlds, and she did it because when the moment came, when everything was falling apart and death seemed certain, she chose to try. She chose courage over comfort. She chose possibility over resignation. Most people will never face a moment like that. Most people will never have to land a plane with no training and 247 lives on the line. But everyone faces moments where they have to decide whether to give up or keep trying, whether to let fear win or push through it, whether to say this is impossible or say I will try anyway. Jessica Matthews was 17 years old when she proved that impossible is just a word, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it, that sometimes the only thing standing between disaster and survival is one person willing to take the controls when everyone else has given up. She went on to become a pilot, earning her commercial license at 19, the youngest in her class. She flies for a major airline now, and every single time she lands a plane, She thinks about that night, about how close they came, about how fragile life is, about how much power we have to save each other if we are just brave enough to try.